Now that you've got Forminator installed, we've only got the free version installed at the moment, and that's going to be fine for now. Let's come over here to where it says Forminator on the left-hand side in your menu, and let's just click on Dashboard just to have a look at what we get. And at the moment, we don't have any forms or anything. We've not created anything yet, but let's get stuck into it and create our first forms. We're going to click on Create here. Now it does come up with some templates that you can choose from and then modify accordingly. And if that's all you need, go through, have a look. You might find what you need here is sufficient for your needs. Obviously, a lot of these require the pro version of Forminator, but there are a few basic ones that are included with the free version. I always start with a blank one just because I like to do it that way. So now you're going to give the form a name. Now, this is just a form for the back end so that you know what it is that you're looking at, especially if you've got lots of forms. It's going to be useful to know what they're all for. So I'm just going to put here, contact us, create the form. And then what we're going to do is start inserting fields. Fields are the different inputs that the users are going to interact with. So whether they're typing in their name or email or phone number or checking a box or selecting from a drop-down, those are all fields. So we click on Insert Fields and you're going to see a whole range of options come up here. There's only this one here, which the signature, which is in the pro version, and that does come in really handy depending on what it is you're doing. But really the rest of these can do a fair bit for you. So usually for a general contact form, we're going to want the person's name, email, phone number. You may want to have their address. A lot of the time it's nice to give people an opportunity to put some text in place. You can have a text input, which is just going to give you a one line for a small amount of text to be input, or a text area where a person can type out a longer response if needed. We can have number selections, radio options. I might just select a few of these and go through and show you. Calculations, which is a little bit more complex, show that later on. Date pickers, time pickers, they can upload files if that's what's needed from you. You can put custom HTML, so this is where you can actually create your own content within the form. Capture, so this is where we want to be able to make sure that we don't have robots coming through and spamming us. There's also a built-in capture within Forminator, but this is sort of an extra layer if you feel that you need it. I'm going to go with these ones here for now, and let's get started. So I click on Insert Fields, and you can see these have all come up one underneath the other here. And just to show you what that looks like in an actual form, I'm going to click on the Preview button over here. And what it's doing is generating a preview, and this is what the form looks like without doing anything to it. Okay, so it's got all these fields that we added. Now it's got these placeholders here that you can see, and I like to remove those or change them to add my own. But you can see even without much effort, we've already got a form that's kind of already looking okay. So we'll get out of the preview. One important thing to do is to make sure that you save your form as a draft or publish it, either way, just to make sure that you don't go and click out of this, because you're going to lose everything you've done. So I'll just click on Save Draft for now, make sure that I don't lose what I'm up to. So in terms of styling, the other thing I like to do is nest things next to each other just to make the form look a little bit more compact or whatever. So for example, phone and email, I like to have them side by side. So if you click on these dots here, you can actually hold down the button on your mouse and drag it around. And wherever that little blue line is where that's going to end up. So I'm going to put it next to the email address, and then I'm going to let go of the mouse. And now you can see the phone and the email are side by side. And if we preview to have a look at that, you'll be able to see that now. We've got our phone field and email field are now side by side. So we've saved a little bit of space on our form. And you can go through and do that for other things as well. For example, you might want to have the checkbox, the radio, and the selection side by side. Again, click on Preview to show you how that looks. And if I scroll down, you can see these are the three that I moved side by side just then. Again, it's just sort of helping to streamline and keep the form condensed. So what I like to do is go in here and change some of these things. So you can click anywhere on this name field and it will open it up, or you can come over here and click on the little settings symbol and click on Edit Field. And you can come through here and play around with all the settings. So with name, you can have the person so that they're entering in a single name. For example, they would put their first name and last name in the text field, or we can make them put in multiple fields. So this is where you could have the prefixes. So for example, Mr., Mrs., etc. If you want them to have to enter that in, first name and middle name and last names, and you can toggle those on and off as you like. So for example, middle name is one that I don't often use, so I'll turn that one off. So that means they won't be required to put that one in, or they won't have the option to put that one in. Now the other thing I like to do is remove this placeholder, the e.g. John, so we can get rid of that altogether, or you can type in anything you like there, but I'm going to keep it blank. And same for last name, I'm going to delete the placeholder there as well. In the settings, we come across to this tab here. We have got some various options, and these options are available in all of the fields, and the options that are available to you will be different depending on the field that you're working in. So you can see here that I can click through, and we can say whether or not the person's first name is optional or required. So if it's optional, it means that the person can submit the form without leaving their first name. And if that's what, if it's not important to you, that's fine. If you do really want to know their name, then you would select this required option. So that means they cannot submit the form until they've added in their first name. And again, there's an error message. So if they haven't entered their first name and they try to submit the form, they'll get that little red error message come up that will say your first name is required. So I'll leave that there. And the same for the last name. I'm going to change that to required as well. And it's automatically got this little message here that says last name is required. So that's all we need for that. I'm not going to worry about the styling or the visibility at this stage, but we'll do some of that a little bit later on. So now I'm just going to click apply, and we can see there's this little symbol here which is telling me that I have made a change that has not been saved. And this little red star is telling me that there's a required field here. So that's just two little indicators that are handy to know. I'm going to preview the form now, and let's see what difference it has made. So what it's done for us is it's made the first name and the last name required, and we can see that by that little asterisk there. And if I try to send the email, you can see those little error messages have come up in red there. So those are those two error messages that we can actually go in and change the writing there if we want to. So let's get out of there. I'm going to save my form. Now I'm going to go through and do the same thing to all of the different fields that we've got here. So let's start with so we'll move to the phone field next. When we click on the phone field again, I'm going to remove the placeholder here and go into the settings. And I usually do want the phone field to be a required field, so they have to complete it in order to submit the form. And this is just one way that you're going to help reduce the amount of spam that comes through the website. Again, you can add in an error message here. For example, please enter your phone number. Now, the other really cool thing you can do with the phone number field is you can have these validations in here where you can set a character limit. So how many digits does the person need to enter in order for it to be a valid phone number? If they don't put in that number of characters, then it won't allow you to submit the form. You can also choose a format for the phone number as well. So for example, you can come through and choose Australia, and then obviously choose a validation message if they don't put in the correct country code for that phone number. I'm going to leave that as none, but that obviously is one that you can do as well. So I'm going to click apply. Same thing with the email. Let's come in and remove this placeholder here in the settings. Again, you can make it required or optional. It's completely up to you. But what I'm going to do is I might leave this one as optional, but I'm going to create a validation for this one. So this is going to make sure that they have entered a correct email address and not just tried to type in any old random text into that field. So please enter a valid email address. Click apply. What I'll do is I'll quickly just go to the preview there and show you what those two will look like. You can see here that the placeholders have been removed for these two fields here. The phone number is showing as a required field and the email address is showing as not required. And if I just try to submit the form, you can see it shows up the error messages where we want it to. Now let's type in an incorrect email address and then try to submit the form. And you can see it's saying, please enter a valid email address. So a valid email address might be something@something.com. Let's see if it likes it better this time. So you can see now that error message has disappeared because it's recognized that we've got the @ symbol and we've got the .something at the end here. So it's recognizing this as somewhat of a legitimate email address. So you can sort of start to see how this is working. And we're going to go through and do the same thing for the address. I'm just going to go through a little bit quicker. I'm going to come down here, and we're in Australia, so we don't have zips, we have postcodes, and I don't like to call it postal code, I call it a postcode. Get rid of the placeholder, so you can see that's what will show when they are looking at the form, so they won't see this zip thing here. Same with state and province, we don't have provinces here. We have states, so let's get rid of a few things like that. We'll leave the we'll leave the city one there. We can leave that one. Get rid of the placeholder here. And I'm going to turn the country code off. I don't really want that one in this one. Settings, again, is it required or not? And you can make that for each of these. I'm not going to bother setting those quite right now. Now for the text one, again, you can go in and change the placeholder. So let's give it a different label. So instead of being called text, let's call it leave your comments here. You can obviously put anything you like there. Again, required or not, you can change the height of that box as well. Because it's a text area, we can allow them to add in a large number of text into it. So we want the height of that field to be matched accordingly, I suppose. So we can leave it at 140 for now, and you can always change that. You've got this max characters option, so if you only want them to be able to enter in a certain amount of text, you don't want them to get too carried away, you can put a limit in there just by putting in, say, 500 characters or that sort of thing. So let's just apply that for now. And again, let's go and have a look. So if we preview, you can see this is our leave your comments section here. And the height I was talking about is this height here. So we can actually click and drag that to extend it as we would like to, but this is the height that we're setting as sort of the default height that they'll see when they open up the form or when they visit the form. And you can see all of the placeholders have disappeared for all of these parts of the address that I was just modifying. We've got our postcode instead of zip, state without the province, and things like that. So you can see all those changes are taking place. So now let's just move down to these here, these last few sort of selection fields, and I'll show you a few things we can do with that using conditional logic. And I might do that in the next video. So we'll leave that one here for now. And don't forget to save your form before you do anything else so you don't lose the work that you've done.